Welcome Samantha Churon. Give her comments so she can win at the district level. Samantha.
Do you guys remember that joke your parents made when you were a kid? About how once you went off to college, they were going to move away and not tell you where they were going? Remember that? Yeah, that happened to me. Don't worry, I found them. Those jerks thought they could hide. No. So now my parents live far away, and holidays are just the best. Does anyone here have out-of-town family they have to travel to for Christmas or holidays? Yeah, waking up on the futon on Christmas morning is probably my favorite part. The best way that I have found to cope with this is just going with the flow. It's my best advice. Let me bring you back in time, way back in time, to the days of the iPhone 4. It was 2013, Christmas, and it was our turn to travel to where I eventually found my parents in North Carolina. You're probably thinking we flew. Oh no. I'm far too cheap for that. Brad and I were driving. He was my boyfriend at the time. The trip should take between 10 or 11 hours, but if you hit traffic in either New Jersey or on the Beltway, you're pretty much guaranteed to miss all of Christmas. So we left early. We wanted to make it there in time. As soon as we got in the car, Brian mentions for probably the 1000th time in the last 3 weeks how he'd seen the best restaurant ever in Philadelphia on television, on the diners and the drive-ins that show, and he wants to stop there for lunch. I don't know about you guys, but when I'm on a road trip of this nature, I have one priority, and that is making record-breaking time. That means you don't just stop by some major metropolitan area for a quick lunch. Duh, Brian. We can dawdle on the way home. We ended up getting near Philadelphia around 10 in the morning. Too early for lunch? Yes. Onward we went. We got near Washington, D.C., and Brian got on this restaurants that have been on TV kick again. And this time, he wants to stop by the nation's capital for a quick lunch. Why can't we do this on our way home? I couldn't understand these detours, and I wasn't having any of it. We ended up eating at my selection, right off the highway, at an A&W root beer. And I love root beer, so I was excited. Anything made by the root beer people must be equally delicious, right? No. Our food took an eternity, and once we finally got it, I don't think I would have given it to my dog, and he eats everything. We'd actually considered abandoning our order and our American dollars paid, but time is of the essence on a road trip, if you'll recall, and I felt we were already committed. I did shed a tear or two, not only because our food took long enough for the chickens to hatch, but because I alone had to carry the weight of selecting this abominable lunch location. Needless to say, the tensions were a little high when we got back into the car. We were both very unsatisfied by our lunch, and Brian was upset because I refused to cooperate with his plans to stop by Philadelphia and Washington, D.C. Why can't we do this on our way home? It didn't make any sense. I couldn't understand his motivations. My imagination started going wild. I eventually accused him of hating my mother and trying to keep me from my family. Brian got a little upset. Okay, Brian got a lot upset. And he yelled at me. That's not the point, Samantha. Then what is the point, Brian? continued traveling south and got a little stir-crazy in the car, so we decided to play a game, a childhood favorite of many, I Spy. As we're playing, we pass a milestone of most of my road trips south. See, there's this truck stop on I-85 just before you get into North Carolina that I adore. It's huge, it's clean, it has a Dunkin' Donuts and a Subway, great prices on fuel, and an enormous convenience store. You can't ask for much more on a road trip. Brian had mentioned stopping there, but we had just stopped, and I hadn't started listening to him, so I wasn't about to now. So I didn't even slow down. I kept on driving, and Brian got upset. Again, what is going on with this guy? He's so weird. On his next turn in the game, he said, I spy something glittery. That's not a color. I got a big sigh. Samantha, will you just go with the flow for once today, please? All right. Is it my cell phone case? No. Was it the reflection of the sun on my windshield? No. What kind of color is glittery? It's not color. As I continued driving and guessing, Brian began fiddling around in his pocket. And he eventually produces an engagement ring. And he asked me to marry him, which I accepted while continuing to drive. And it was then that he let me in on all of his plans for the day. His original intention was to propose to me at the Love Statue in Philadelphia. His backup plan was in Washington, D.C. And his last resort plan was at my favorite truck stop in Virginia, called Love's. And I managed to ruin every single one of these incredibly romantic plans. It's okay. He married me anyway. And we currently live happily ever after. And I learned an important lesson that day, that sometimes, especially around holidays, you really should just go with the flow. Mr. Toastmaster.